and welcome back, everyone. Oh my god. Hold on, I'll be chained up soon. One moment. But welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another season of the GSL. I'm of course host Live VIP, and with me I'm joined by the lovely people in the chat. I knew I forgot something. Hold on. I'll chain. There we go. I'll chain myself up. I'll chain myself up. As we're getting ready here for something a little bit special. Those wondering, last week in the middle of World Team League, as we were casting WTL, the GSL qualifiers were held. And unfortunately, they didn't get casted. For those wondering, they never get casted. The GSL qualifiers are always just held at the event, or they're held online, and the replays are collected by the admins, and they release those replays to the patrons of GSL. So a massive shout out, of course, a shout out to the Patreon of the Global StarCraft League, and the replays have been released, and we have them for you, Papi. We have them. So we're going to be going over the Code A qualifiers, or I guess we're going to be going over Code A, which is the GSL qualifiers for Code S, and we have all the qualifying matches, and there's a lot of matches. There's a lot of matches to go through, a lot of matches to go over tonight. Exclamation mark B in the chat if you guys want to look at spoilers. I do be careful. Be careful about that Wikipedia page. Of course, the event did already occur a week ago, or less than a week ago at this point. So you can look at them if you wish, but we're going to be switching our scenes over, and these are the matches we have before you tonight. We're going to be having herO versus Stats. The loser plays against herO, so there are these lower bracket matches available as well. Australia versus Bunny, loser versus Classic, Beyond versus Nightmare, loser versus Ragnarok. All of these matches were qualifying matches, so they were all chances to advance on into Code S, and this is only half of what we have. This is round one. There was a kind of like a second chance. There was a round two played after this, and we're going to be casting that tomorrow. We're going to be casting the round two matches, and also Group D tomorrow as well. So half today, half tomorrow. That's our current plan. If you are interested, if you want to go over what we are covering, can send those replays. Go subscribe to the GSL Patreon. You're an animal, Ranger. You're an animal. Yeah, if you want to support the GSL, if you want to get replays yourself, whether it's with Code A or even Code S, the replays are provided through the patron of GSL. So to support them as best you can. A great Patreon to support. I mentioned it yesterday when we were casting KSL. If you're a community member and if you want to support StarCraft, there are a lot of ways to do so nowadays, whether it's supporting KSL's Patreon, GSL's Patreon, our own Patreon. There are ways to support, especially if you're interested in replays, if you are interested in those replays. We do have a command. In the chat. Let's go. So yeah, these are the matches we have for you tonight, and we have many more tomorrow night as well. I think tomorrow we're going to be casting Scarlet. Scarlet did participate in the qualifiers, and we got her matches tomorrow. Not today though, not today. No. And yeah, we are going to be starting off with herO versus Stats with a PvP. So let's go. Very exciting, especially considering I'm always excited to cover some of these kind of part-time pro gamers like Stats, all the players on the Kwangdong Freaks. I mentioned last week when we were casting the WTL qualifiers and WTL Code A, how it's so exciting to see that the Kwangdong Freaks and Mystery Gaming have made it into Code S of World Team League. It does mean that they're all going to be more active. Players like Keen, players like Alive, Armani, Stats as well, Bunny, we're casting him later on. All these players, they all have much more to play for, to compete in WTL, and that's also going to influence them and affect them in GSL. Like, again, there are more events that they can be active in, more events that they're participating in, and more reason to improve, more reason to compete. Always a good thing. As we are diving into our first series, it's going to be that herO versus Stats, game 1 on Babylon. Let's go. And again, as a reminder, the loser of this series plays off against herO in a lower bracket match. There you go. As we are diving into this and spawning in the top left-hand corner of Babylon, we have the South Korean Protoss player. He is red, representing Dragon Kaiser Gaming. It is herO. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the blue Protoss player representing the Kwangdong Freaks. It is Stats. Here we go. The PvPs are upon us. And as a reminder, this is a best of 3 as well, not a best of 5. All the matches in the qualifiers are best of 3s, which is a little bit brutal. Personally, I would have appreciated best of 5s as the qualifying matches, but nah, I'm a pure best of 3s. A little bit more cutthroat, a little bit more brutal, a little bit less forgiving. We'll see how this does turn out. So far, we do have gate expands being set up from both players. As to be expected on Babylon, again, there is a ramp coming into the natural, so it is the consensus amongst the Protoss players that it is safe to go for a gate expand. It is safe to go for an economic opener on a map like Babylon. We do see Stats taking a faster second gas, herO staying on 1 gas. This tells us that Stats is more than willing to throw down some tech first before the expansion. I'm talking about like a Stargate before Nexus. herO a lot more committed here to his expansion, as both players are going to be as annoying as possible with their probes. Going to be delaying each other as long as they can. And outside of that, nothing too crazy here. I do love watching herO in general in PvPs. He's such an aggressive player. Like, even though he's setting up for a gate expand here, like, he can always go for a one-base all-in. He's always willing to kind of divert his attention and change his mind. And oh my god. Okay. So, because he only took 1 gas geyser, there was no option to throw down any tech here for herO. So, I was really concerned for him, but I shouldn't have been. He does expand on time. He takes the unnatural natural instead. Oh my. And I believe Stats did see. Yes, Stats does check. He confirms that the expansion has been taken. Meanwhile, Stats is being delayed. Pylon is thrown down as herO's Zealot does make its way across the map. Oh my god. Going all the way into the main, going to be distracting the Zealot of his opponent. The Pylon will finish. Ooh, but the Zealot gets surrounded. Good control out of Stats, not losing a single probe, pulling back the weakened probe just as soon as he could. Or at that last moment. Meanwhile, the Stalker has arrived as well. This Pylon should eventually go down. Zelda's going to be buying some time, and Stats is about to have an Adept of his own, not a Stalker. Uh-oh. A head-to-head fight, the Stalker will come out on top, but we have a second Adept coming out as well. But herO, he's looking to snowball out of control again. Even though his expansion is very exposed, he's trying to keep Stats back at home. Keep his attention on his own side of the map, as there is no shield battery, and eventually herO, he should win out this trade. Should win out this fight. A bit of miscontrol earlier, but there we go. The Adept goes down. Now there's only 1 Adept left. A Stalker finally does come out, and Stats will fend this off for now, but we have a 3rd Stalker rocking up. Oof. We're going to be trading a Stalker for an Adept. But here, he's slowly snowballing out of control. He's causing a lot of havoc. Warp Gate is about to finish up. The shield battery is done. We can now warp in some units. And Stats should be able to hold on. Back at home, we have a Robo on the way. No Twilight Council. Interesting choice here from herO. As he does back off, he's going to be consolidating his units. He's going to be consolidating his army. He is containing Stats here to 2 bases. We have Blink on the way. The wall is up. The gateways are done. And with this shield battery, Stats should be able to hold on. Things got very chaotic for a while there, really just trading units for units. Stats coming out worse for wear, as you can see here, just losing a couple of extra gateway units, but he does hold on. Behind this, herO has been making probes, or just chronoing out as many as he could. He does have an economic lead, did have a faster expansion, of course. And again, even though this is a really awkward expansion to hold on to, Stats, he's stuck at home, he's fully walled off. He actually cannot be aggressive. He cannot punish the economy here of his opponent. Of course, for herO knows it could be a Stargate opener, but he's about to check with the hallucination, and he will rest easy knowing that it's going to be Blink, not an Oracle coming across the map. So hallucination dips into the natural, goes into the main, confirms that Blink is on the way. Confirms it's not DTs. But now stats, he's soon to be active on the map. Something that herO has, though, and I think it's, of course, really smart of him to go for this, is that he did delay his Twilight Council in favor of a Robo, so he's already working on Immortals. Even though herO has a lower Stalker count, and he'll have worse Stalkers as well, since he doesn't have Blink, defensively, Immortals should keep him safe, as long as he's in position. Of course, stats, he can try to outmaneuver the army of herO, but for the most part, herO should have enough to hold on. He shouldn't be in any danger. As stats is just expanding, taking his third base, so is herO taking his own third, which is going to be scattered by Hallucination. Hallucination also sees the Immortal coming out, so stats should be aware that he's behind in the Immortal count. He's trying to catch up with his own Immortal production, but again, he is slightly behind that of his opponents. And herO slightly ahead overall. You know, he's ahead in economy, slightly ahead in third base timing. He's got his Immortals, which should keep him alive long enough to finish up his own Blink, as it is on the horizon. Stats moves out, and oh, an Immortal was left exposed, but okay. Here he does pull back in time. Does preserve that Immortal. Oh, and as his third base is finishing up, we're getting into a Warp Prism and throwing down additional gateways. That is going to be the 4th gateway for herO. Blink is done, and now herO can move out across the map. Now, Stats has been building up his Immortals. He has a Shield Battery. He has an Overcharge. He's got 3 Sentries for Force Fields. Stats can take a fight, but again, it's going to be a delicate dance here, at least until he gets his second Immortal out. herO, he moves on forward, dives on top of 2 of these Stalkers already, taking them down, focusing on those Sentries. The Immortal is exposed, and oh, Stats is being picked apart, losing too many units too quickly. Overcharge now popped, but it's at this point maybe too late. Another Immortal does come out, but is being focused down, is out of range of the Shield Battery. The Immortal goes down, and herO is snowballing out of control. Hitting a very strong timing here. As soon as he had his 2 Immortals, as soon as he had Blink, he is going to be breaking this third base. Again, we already used up the Overcharge. It was just a really rough start of the fight for Stats, losing his Immortal so quickly. And herO, he could try to keep pushing. He does back off for now. He's going to be consolidating his army, warping in another round. Stats, though, can he hold on? Enough time has passed. He's soon to have another Overcharge. Has an Immortal, has a second Shield Battery on the way. herO's just rotating over towards the natural. He has high ground vision. He can just avoid the army and just go straight for the main. At the same time, we have Adept shading into the third base as well, and oh, for a moment they even attacked. Probes are going down. Lost mining time as well. herO just maintaining his lead, taking a 4th base. He's just pulling Stats apart. Now, herO, he did stop Immortal production for a while, so he's now fallen behind in the Immortal count, so maybe Stats can leverage that in some way. But Charge is about to finish up, and that is a good way to just, in a way, nullify those Immortals. Zealots, they do a great job just buffering for your army, trading against Stalkers and Immortals. Stats just trying to hold on here to his 3rd, and herO, he's getting his 4th. Just taking up even further. Temple Archives, Charge on the way. Now, there are ways to come back. As bleak as this looks for Stats, and he is behind straight up in this mirror matchup, you can start taking towards, say, Disruptors. Like, as a Hail Mary play, there's Disruptors, there's DTs as well. And of course, with Blink Stalkers, you can always try to outmaneuver your opponents, but you know, the armies, they do meet head-to-head. Stats is going to be careful. He does have a higher Stalker count. Picks off a Zealot. He's getting a couple more Stalkers. Does lose a... Sorry, he gets a couple more Zealots. He does lose a Stalker in the process. Has to back off, and herO, he's just amassing an army. Gonna be hitting before Stats can take up. Now, once again, Stats is on the back foot. He does have an overcharge available. He has more shield batteries as well. Gonna be trading well initially. herO, he takes a fifth. Up 2 bases compared to Stats. As +2 is about to kick in for herO. There's a window where he will have the upgrade advantage. He doesn't even care. He just pushes on forward into the third base. Overcharges popped. Stats is coming in from behind. He does have the better concave. Oh, herO has to be careful not to overextend. The Archons are going down. They're exposed. And we see Stats just collapse on this army. He takes down the War Prism. He focuses down the Immortals as well. Is this going to be enough? He gets every single Immortal, and Stats, he takes the better fight. He had the concave. He had the shield batteries. And suddenly, herO loses all of his high-tech units. He lost almost every single Immortal, lost his Archons. That was not the fight. And now Stats is about to catch up in upgrades. herO is in a bit of trouble. I mean, thankfully for herO, Stats is still stuck at home. So herO, he's getting away with a better economy and he's getting away with these bases. But I spoke too soon, because now Stats is moving out. He has his Warp Prism, he's got his Immortals, looking at the units tab. He's up in Immortals, up in Archons. The only thing that herO has is gateway units. His Blink Stalkers. Yeah, and he's being chased down. Yeah, now it's going to be herO's turn to have the defender's advantage. He does pop the overcharge. His Immortals are being exposed, they're being focused down. That shield battery putting in a lot of work, and Stats may be bleeding out too much. He does get on top of the shield battery, but he's running out of units. He only has these Immortals left, basically. He's trying to break on through, but herO has too much. Takes down the Prism, cleans up the army, GG gets called, and herO takes game number 1. GG, well played. Defender's advantage just a little bit too good, but on top of that, Stats was all in, right? Stats, he was down 2 bases, he was down far behind economically. The pressure was on him to kill herO then and there, less so on herO. So GG, herO will still take game 1, but that was a little bit closer than I'm sure he would have liked. Despite having a really strong lead, he did almost lose the game. Stats, of course, the Shield of Ire, looking strong defensively, was able to have a chance in that game and bounce back. Just barely wasn't enough to break herO. The power of overcharge for both players, for Protoss, it's crazy. GG. As we get into game number 2, a shout out to Sort of in the chat. Oh my god, thank you so much. Hope you had a great stream. Hope you had a great ladder session. Yeah, shout out to Sort of. He's a player that recently has been dabbling in StarCraft again. For a while, he was retired. He was playing Age of Empires. You know, he was, exploring other options. But you're never really gone. And I hope you're enjoying your time. Hope you're enjoying your time laddering again and playing StarCraft again. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Do appreciate it. As we're getting ready for game number 2. For those that are tuning in, we are covering the GSL Codes qualifiers that took place last week. We're still in our first series. Welcome. As we get into game number 2. And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Grass Farm, we have the South Korean Protoss player representing Dragon Kaizi Gaming. It is herO. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the other South Korean Protoss representing Kwangdong Freaks. It is Stats. Having a bit of a rough time in that last game. herO's hyper aggression was doing a great job at containing Stats, causing him to fall behind when it came to his natural, his overall worker count early on, eventually third base timing. And herO was able to have so much freedom in that last game Remember, up until the end of the game when Stats moved out, that was the only time he was able to move out that entire game. That's just how aggressive and how in his face herO was. As a result, herO, he was able to just freely expand, get up to 5 bases, had 2 bases over Stats even towards the end. Up 20 workers. Really solid performance out of herO. When it came to the fights, Stats, of course, had some really good moments himself. But, you know, what is a good fight when you don't have the economy behind it to really sustain yourself? So we're getting into game number 2. As we load into Gresson, of course, there's no ramp coming into the natural. It's a little bit larger, of course, as well, but not as safe to go for a gate expand compared to Babylon. So both players are going for double gate openers. 2 gate openers into the Cybercore, and we'll see what kind of units they do begin with. I wouldn't be surprised if herO were to go for something like Double Adept, just be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more assertive, as he usually does. Perhaps Stats going for Stalker Sentry, but we'll see. We'll see. But the first 2 units will be for either player. That'll kind of give us a read on how they want to approach Game 2. As a reminder, this is a qualifying match and a best of 3 as well. Not a best of 5. Ooh, as we do have a double Stalker opener here from herO. Meanwhile, Stats indeed going for a Stalker Sentry. So herO going to be a little bit more assertive. He's going to have more map control. He can be more in the face of his opponent with these 2 Stalkers, soon to be even more behind this. Stats more defensive, more safe play. Going for that faster Sentry. The Sentry allows you to go for a Hallucination Scout early on, just to get a read on the tech of choice of your opponent, whether they go for a Stargate, a Twilight Council, a Robo, a 1-base all-in, an expansion. So just really safe play here from Stats. As herO's going to be fanning out his Stalkers, looking for proxies, and making sure everything is on the up and up. As he does make a Sentry behind this, so herO himself didn't rush into the Sentry, but upon making it, again, we'll have the safety of that Scout as well. As Hallucination is going to be zooming across the map. Both players are expanding. No one's setting up for a 1-base all-in, which is quite common on Gresson. There are a lot of really good proxy locations, but neither one is taking the bait. Neither one going for that. As Stats, he confirms the location of the pylons at least, and the expansion. And as herO throws out the Twilight Council, Stats does get eyes on it. He does confirm it. Fully aware of the blink opener. Meanwhile, herO goes for his own scouts. Is going to be denied a little bit, but he gets a full scout. Also confirms the Twilight Council and the natural base. So he sees everything he needs to. Stats' Twilight Council is a couple of seconds later than herO's. It looked like he was just waiting to see herO's first. But not the biggest of deals. So it is now finishing up and we are getting into Blink. And yeah, we're going to have a much more passive game 2. Compared to game 1, which was like high octane from the beginning with herO just constantly in Stats' face. Here, things are going to be calming down. We'll be settling down in game 2. We're just macroing, chilling, nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy. We're working towards our 3rd bases. And we're just constantly scanning each other. Just constantly sending out hallucinations. Probe has been spotted in case herO were to try to throw down a proxy pylon. And Stats is the first to expand. Does throw down that 3rd. herO was scouting for the 3rd base of Stats and he didn't come across anything yet. So he's just checking. He throws down 2 more gateways actually. Working up towards 4 gates. Interesting. herO fanning out hallucinations before he finally does throw down his 3rd, which has been spotted by Stats. Meanwhile, Stats is still only on 2 gateways, like he's still focusing on his tech. Working on Forge for +1, Robo as well. herO is going to have a massive amount of Stalkers. This is a 5th gateway being set up here, proxied across the map. So herO may have a later 3rd, but he's going to have a massive army. Here we go. He's going to try to force himself up this ramp into a shield battery. No overcharge. Good focus firing on these Stalkers, but there's just too much Protoss. Stats has more than enough to force this back. He will hold on to his 3rd. A little bit misjudged there by herO. I do think he could have maybe waited for another warp in, especially considering that he does have the gateway advantage. But alas, he did lose a little bit much pushing up that ramp, and it's not going to get easier. Now the base is done. We have a 2nd shield battery. We have an overcharge available once we have the energy for it. Oh, herO, he doesn't care. He just dives on in anyway. Focuses down as many of the Stalkers as he can. Overcharge is popped. herO is working his way through the overcharge, though barely keeping these units alive. Wow. And Stats will hold on, but herO's not stopping. He doesn't want to stop. Waits for another warp in. Pushes in once again. But as time goes on, Stats, he does crank out an Immortal. And Stats will hold. The Immortal arrives. The Stalkers come in. Blinks are honestly good from both players, but Stats barely keeping his Stalkers alive as well. Surviving one extra volley than they should. This herO, he doesn't care. He pushes in onesie and gets the Immortal. He's getting a couple more of these Stalkers as well. But we can see that herO, he's running out of steam. He's running out of Stalkers. Is it being forced back? It feels like herO, he's on the cusp. He's on the brink of breaking Stats here and now. Oh, and he is going to be able to focus down these Stalkers. Immortal comes out, but is it going to be enough? Actually, it will. Oh my god. These Stalkers are so battered and bruised, the Immortal was almost one-shotting them. Jesus. As herO goes for another warp in. Again, he's got 5 gateways behind this. He's got 2 more on the way for 7 gateways in total. He's trying to break Stats here and now. But now Stats is up to 2 Immortals. herO, he doesn't care. He gets one of them. He should be able to get the other, but it gets within range of the overcharge of the shield batteries. Oh my god, it barely will not survive. Overcharge popped 1 second too late. Look at the units tab. We can see that herO, he's up 4 Stalkers. Blink does dodge a shot. And Stats is being forced back all the way to his natural. He's barely holding on. Stats barely surviving. It's been a close hold, but again, it does feel like he is barely holding on. Charge is about to kick in. Oh no! The critter. Stats, please. Yeah, as here he's kind of cut off from the rest of his own army. Stats, he's expanding, taking a 4th base. Adepts do shade into the mineral line. It looks like herO has identified that he cannot kill Stats. He cannot break him. He almost did. Like 3 times. Like 3 different times herO almost broke Stats. But Stats holds. He's got charge. Working on +2. Getting his 4th base. He's going to rotate around. He does catch a couple of Zelts for free. Oh, and this is not a good fight for herO. He goes for a big warp in, but his army was caught out. Yeah, hero's being forced back, and the proxy pylon is going to get shut down. Likewise, herO does not want to give this up. He looks to try to repower this gateway. Oh, but here come the reinforcements for Stats, and again, this is just not going to be a good fight for herO. Does lose the probe, but is losing all of his zealots. herO overextending. Gateway will go down. And a big moment for Stats is going to be +2. Again, +2 is on the horizon here for him to have a big upgrade advantage. herO is working towards DTs, Dark Templar, which is a good way to kind of bounce back. We do have defensive cannons on the way. Meanwhile, herO completely out-positioning Stats. Stats, he was distracted by the Zealot run by, and herO, he goes all the way into the natural. He's not getting too much, though. He depowers some shield batteries and doesn't get much else. But he is buying time. He's buying time while he builds up his own immortal count. The DTs also give him access to Archons as well, which will be important, especially considering how Zealot-heavy Stats' army is. Speaking of, Stats working on his own Archons. They're in position to defend against Zealot run-bys. And herO is taking a 5th behind this. Fifth base is on the way. Stats just has a massive army at this point. He does have +2. herO working on Blink. You'd love to see it. He has warped in a wave of DTs, and there we go. They're going to be bypassing the army. The Stalkers as well. We're kind of entering base trade territory as Stats, he catches 2 Immortals for free. The Immortals go down. The 3rd base is going to be falling as well. There is detection with Stats' main army, as herO also pushes into the natural. 3rd base is under fire. And I have to favor Stats a little bit more. Stats has a better main army, but herO is already busting into the main. He's already depowering these gateways. And herO has a 5th. As he recalls his main base probes to safety. Stats busting into the main, taking down all those gateways as well. Stats, does he have a probe? Oh, he does, okay. I was like, did he send out his probes? He did. Probes was sent out with the main army, throws down the Nexus. He will not get eliminated. And again, very important that Stats does have an observer. Otherwise, the DTs could just end the game. But again, here he doesn't have any of his high-tech units. He lost his Immortals, no Archons. In a head-to-head fight, Stats will win this. As he does come across the 4th, is going to shut it down. herO knocked down to 1 mining base, but he does have stack defense. Cannons, shield batteries. It is up and running. It is mining. But again, Stats has double the army supply. herO, he never intended this game to go on as long as it did. We saw how much he was investing in trying to kill Stats at his 3rd base over and over and over again. And Stats barely held on, and from that moment, he's been in the driver's seat. Now herO taking another expansion. He's going to be containing Stats at least, or at least trying to. But Stats, he cannot be contained. Gonna be moving out. And he can just... I was about to say he could probably just A-move and just like move out across the map. The problem is that he will be exposing his bases and he could still die from elimination. Like that's the thing. Ooh, he does snipe the Observer. But I'm sure he's paranoid about moving out and exposing his last Nexus. Especially versus DTs. Speaking of, you can see here, split off an army. He is getting ready for a backstab. Does want to come in from behind. And even here, herO, he picks off a Zealot. Gets a Zealot, backs off. Stats, though, coming in from multiple angles, is going to collapse on this base. A lot of cannons. There is a shield battery overcharge as well. It's going to be putting in a lot of work, but the shield battery overcharge is going to be focused down. At the same time, here comes herO, pushing into that last mining base of Stats. But herO will break this location, will clean up the army. Back at home, herO getting into the mineral line, getting on top of that cannon as well, and Stats is turning back around. He was. As Stats could recall, but no, he's committing. He's committing to the base trade, not turning around. I mean, he has plenty of buildings here back at home, so he can afford to go for this. As he finds the 5th base. A couple of pylons here on the right-hand side as well, which haven't been found. They have not been scouted. herO does have a probe here towards the south, does have enough to throw down a pylon. We're going for the elimination. Stats looking for any stray buildings. As herO is down to 2 more pylons. He needs to throw something down. herO! No! GG gets called. I mean, herO was going to lose anyway, but GG, well played. Stats will win via elimination. GG. Killing the last building of herO. Killing that last pylon. And again, even leading up to it, Stats, he had the better army anyway. Like, he had so many more buildings out on the map. herO was probably just accepting defeat at that point, and we're going to the ace match. We're going all the way to game 3. Oh, let's go. But again, that was a really intense game, especially when herO, he just went up to 5 gateways, if you remember. 5 gateways with that proxy. Was just continuing to just warp in and be in the face of Stats. I think there were multiple moments there where I thought that he had done it. I thought that he had broken Stats and he had won the game. But Stats, he was just so tenacious in his defense. Oh, so meticulous with his blink control, pulling back to his natural when he needed to, where he had another fresh shield battery. And yeah, really well done. Really well done by Stats. Going all the way to the ace match. Here we go. We're getting into our next game, and spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have the South Korean Protoss representing CranKy Gaming. It is herO. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have as opponent, we have the South Korean Protoss player, the blue Protoss representing the Kwangdong Freaks. It is Stats. Again, was up against the ropes for the first half of that last game. Barely defending, barely holding on to his 3rd base, but getting ahead when it comes to the quality of his army, when it comes to his upgrades, when it comes to his tech units as well. Like Archons, like Immortals. And Stats was able to defend against the basically all-in that herO was going for. And forced herO to back off to transition, but at that point, Stats had, in a way, snowballed out of control. Just because herO was being so aggressive and he just wasn't able to kill Stats in time. Now we have game 3. And hello, probe. Have a game 3. It looks like herO wants to hide a 2nd pylon. It is going to be a fake proxy pylon. For those wondering, the 2nd pylon should be thrown down in the main base, but herO is going to be hiding it, or I think he should be hiding it out on the map, making it look like he's proxying. Really, he isn't. As we do have 2 gate openers, there we go. The pylon is thrown down. Likewise, Stats throws down his own pylon in his main. Of course, Stats, he can just count buildings, count the pylons, and recognize that, hold on, your pylon is missing. What's interesting is that herO didn't probe scout. He does not care at all what Stats is doing. He's not really too concerned. Ooh, as he is going to be keeping his probe out of the map. Could we try and take the gold? It's possible. We have been seeing a lot of gold bases on Royal Blood in PvP specifically. For those wondering, the 2 matchups that we see the gold base being taken on is PvP and PvT. Again, usually by Protoss players. So that is an option here for herO. Oh, as he's going for a very fast robo. Okay, going for a robo-based opener. Stats, meanwhile, scouting the right-hand side of the map, looking for that pylon. Scouting the left-hand side as well. trying to get a read on what herO is up to. He's fanning out his stalkers, looking for something that doesn't really exist. And I'm curious what this robo is going to be for. We can throw down a third gateway, go for a prism, and go for a one-base all-in. We can start early immortal production. We can see Stats, he throws down his own robo. This is a safety defensive robo from Stats. He's assuming he's being one-base all-in. Oh, the Adept does shade in, does see the robo. And we're even going to get a probe. Very nice pick off here from herO. Upon seeing this defensive robo, we'll see what he does go for. We do have a prism on the way. And herO does expand. He is taking the gold. Again, I feel like herO, he usually takes the gold on Royal Blood in PvP. Like, this is it's a very common thing. But he is going for it. Prism has arrived. I love this. This is a good way to keep the pressure on Stats and keep him busy at home. As I imagine herO is going to be looking to warp in and get some adepts into that mineral line. But before he can do so, Stats is going to be in his face. He does have the Stalker advantage. He's going to be pushing herO back into his own main. At the same time, there are those adepts on the way for herO. I wonder, is Stats going to check that gold? It looks like he will. He is on the way. Adepts are being dropped into the main, but we do leave some units behind, and Stats should be able to hold on. Oh, the sentries. One sentry will go down. A probe as well. Oh, even a second probe. Meanwhile, Stats, he checks, and he does come across the gold base. He's aware it's not mining yet, but once it does, he can abuse it. Slipping into the main. Does get eyes on the Immortal. And herO does end up recalling over to the gold base as well. But again, Stats, he's aware of it. He's aware he can punish it. Especially now that herO recalled, it means that he can't recall defensively. Oh, he is very out of position, and probes are going to go down. Stalker being warped in shouldn't quite survive either. The shield might be putting in a lot of work. There's that overcharge as well. And here comes the rest of the army for herO. He does hold on to his gold. Now, the downside to this is that herO's kind of being spread thin. You know, his entire army had to come over to the gold, which means that his main base is exposed as well. So Stats, he could try to take advantage of that. He could try to bounce between both the gold base and the main. We'll see what he goes for. As herO's moving out, and Stats is as well. We could even end up in a weird base trade. Oh, Immortal is going to go down for free. Meanwhile, herO is not turning around. He's going straight for the natural, straight for the main. And we are going for a base trade. Of course, we can always recall. And it looks like Stats does plan on recalling. He does come back home. Gateways are being depowered. Force fields are thrown down. There is no shield battery. But Stats should have more than enough. Yeah, he's got 2 Immortals. He has enough of an army. And herO once again. Bit of a misrally. Oof. He barely does hold on to his Immortal. At the same time, he's losing mining here at his gold. Has a little bit of miscontrol, and Stats does end up losing one of his Immortals as well. Both players are hurting. herO does have the Immortal advantage. He has a 3rd Immortal coming into play as well. But the overall army supply is in favor of Stats. Going for another warp in. He's repowering his gateways. But herO may just have too much. He's coming in with a 4th Immortal. One of them is finally going to be going down. But herO should have enough firepower. Good juggling as well with that War Prism. herO keeping his Immortals alive. And he completely shuts down this army. He holds onto the gold. Only a single Immortal will survive. Oh no! And it's going to be Stats' turn to misrally a little bit and send in one of his own immortals. Will be losing it. herO can keep on pushing. And what do we have at home to defend? We have 2 sentries, a stalker, soon to be a shield battery. But the army has arrived, and as long as herO can juggle his immortals and keep them alive, then he should be able to just snowball out of control. It's just too much. He's trying to get on top of that prism as well. Up! The War Prism will survive, but I can't say the same when it comes to the army of Stats. Oh. He's juggling his heart out. Trading pretty well overall, but alas, it's still a numbers game. He's just micring his heart out with that one immortal. Does lose control of his natural. Loses the shield battery. He is forcing herO back for a moment. But again, we have another Warprint of Stalkers. And herO behind this, he's up in economy. He has a natural. He has a second base. He can sustain himself. He can keep warping in. And the Nexus will fall. Stats having fun with his one immortal. You know, he's doing well with it, to be fair. You know, credit where credit's due. But GG gets called. GG does get called, and herO will take the series 2-1, qualifying for GSL Season 3 Code S. GG. GG, well played. A pretty back and forth PvP, a very herO PvP as well. Taking the goal based on Royal Blood again, it's something he does quite often. Did get away with it as well. I was concerned that he was going to be pulled apart. I was concerned that that Stats would be able to take advantage of him, but for the most part he wasn't able to. Stats, I guess because of the location of the base as well, once herO was in position to defend it, he was then immediately threatening the bases of Stats, so he had to stay back at home defensively. He didn't really have too much room, or he didn't find the room to send out like a couple of adepts or a couple of stray units to harass either base to try to keep herO's attention at home. And herO was able to keep the pressure on and defend, attack. GG. GG. Well played to herO. He is going to be our first player to qualify for GSL tonight. The first of many, though. The first of many. As I just update the score. Just trying to update the score, and yeah, with that, it's okay. If you're a fan of Stats, he has another chance. He has another opportunity. Up next, he has another opponent ready and waiting. So to switch our scenes over and have a look at the rest of the matches coming up. I know a lot of people came in from Sword of's raid, so before us, we have quite a lot of matches ahead of us. A lot of PvTs, actually. A lot of Protoss, a lot of Terran. One Zerg at the end of the night. One Zerg.